Hello, my name is Shahin Mirzaei. I'm a master's student at Penn State Law. I'm currently participating in Manglona Lab for Gender and Economic Equity. For one of the lab's projects, Witness to Her Story, we are capturing women's experience during a dynamic era in the United States. Today, I have the privilege of welcoming Ms. Nancy Bois. Thank you so much for joining me, Nancy.
Sure.
So let's start with your childhood and early life. So when were you born?
1950 in July.
And where did you grow up?
Rockford, Illinois.
And who were the members of your family?
I had both of my parents, an older sister and an older brother.
And how was your relationship with your parents?
It was very good. It was good. I was the youngest, so I was probably doted upon a little bit.
And what kind of things did you usually discuss with them?
What kind of what?
What kind of things, like what kind of
Um,
questions, what do you think?
my parents, my mom talked a lot about religion was very important in our house. I was raised Catholic, 12 years in a Catholic school. And my parents were always very politically involved in, elections and the government and things like that. They talked a lot about politics. I didn't really get interested in that until later.
And was that something that you talked about them? You said you were not interested in the beginning.
Not as a child. I didn't really understand what it was all about.
So did both of your parents work outside of the home?
My dad did, but my mother did not work outside.
And what was his job?
He was an electrician.
And did they maintain those roles throughout your childhood?
Absolutely.
And how were the responsibilities divided in your households?
Well, my dad worked outside the home and was the breadwinner, and my mom did everything inside the home except for like big maintenance projects. If the furnace went out or the storm, we had to, it was an old, very old house. It was 100 years old when they bought it. So every spring and fall, they had to put storm windows up, take storm windows down. That was my dad.
So your dad was not involved in the households, like in the household things?
No. He would cook on the grill.
Oh, okay. And how was the decision making split up between your parents?
It's pretty much my mom was the one who called the shots.
And what values or lessons did they wanted to emphasize during your childhood?
Oh, to be honest, always tell the truth. I got in trouble for not telling the truth a few times, and that stands out in my mind. Follow the rules, don't rock the boat, don't embarrass them.
And did your parent had specific dreams or aspiration for you as their daughter?
You know, they didn't talk much about that, really. I was the first person to go to college of all my cousins. None of them went to college. But, and it was sort of, I don't know, maybe a surprise that I went to college, but they didn't really push for that. They were happy and supported me financially to do that, but they didn't say, you must do this. If I had gotten a job right out of high school, I think they would have been okay with that.
So how did your parents or your house in general view women's at the time, the role of women? You said that they were not very, they didn't push you for college. So what did they wanted you to do?
They wanted me to get good grades and stay out of trouble. Just maintain the status quo and not, I'm trying to think. It's hard, that's a few years ago.
Take your time.
Yeah. You know, basically I remember the day-to-day things, be home. I know this sounds cliche, but be home when the street lights come on, those follow the rules of the house and you know, just go along with what was expected of me, which was like to dry the dishes or maybe iron, fold laundry, things like that, which though that's minor.
How did these wishes influence your career and your life choices in general?
I was more influenced with my life and my career by my peers, more so than my parents and my home life.
Mhm. Was that
I-
because you were a first generation college student?
Partly, at times there was turmoil in my house at times, and so I would seek out friends' homes. I was always at their home, seldom were they at mine for other reasons too, but and they all went to college. The peer group that I had, all of us went, except for one went to college. So I just joined the flow. And the fact that I was a very, very good student.
Mhm. So you would say that their households were different than yours?
Yes.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we've talked a little bit about your childhood, let's move forward to your elementary school experience. When did you first start school?
I went to kindergarten when I was just 5. I turned 5 at the end of July. Kindergarten was not mandatory, but my mom felt it was important. So I did go when I was 5, 1955.
Mhm. And that was kindergarten. When did you start elementary school?
Then I went to first grade in the following year, and I was 12 years in a Catholic school.
Mhm. And could you please describe your school for us?
The elementary,
Yes.
there were like 2 classes of each grade, and out of the 8 grades, maybe half of them were taught by a nun, the rest were taught by lay people. The classes were large. My first grade class had 63 students in it. And people say, oh, that can't be. And I have a picture of 10 rows across the room with 6 in each row. And then a few extras. So there were, but she got the job done.
Wow, that's a big class.
It was big, yeah. Yeah. And
And
I do remember that the tuition at my elementary school was $18 a year.
wow.
I know. My high school was $125 a year, so my parents would pay it in 2 installments, the beginning of the year, and then because that was a lot of money.
Yeah, I think back then it was a lot of money.
Yeah,
And was that a co-ed school or non-co-ed? Your elementary school?
co-ed,
Co-ed. Okay. And what was the name of that school?
St. Patrick's.
Mhm. And did you enjoy going to school?
Did I enjoy being at school?
Yes.
I loved it.
Why?
Um, it was interesting. I was with my friends. I just liked everything about it. I enjoyed doing the homework. It filled, I guess, a need I had to get more knowledge, maybe. I don't know. I just really have always enjoyed the school setting.
Mhm. And was there dress code? Sorry, let me rephrase.
Not in the elementary. Well, I'm sure that we weren't allowed to wear what the kids wear today, but we just dressed sensibly. But in high school, we had uniforms, plaid skirts and blazers.
Mhm. So what did you usually wear to your elementary school since you didn't have a dress code?
I think I wore like jumpers or skirts with like pants underneath because it would be cold, you know.
And could you wear that pants in the school, or you just had to?
Just the pants.
Yeah.
I don't remember just wearing pants to school. And I'm trying to think the girls that I walked with. I think we always wore dresses or skirts, jumpers. I don't remember just putting on pants. Isn't that true? I just don't remember that we wore pants.
Mhm. I mean, most schools at the time didn't allow pants, like didn't
Hmm.
allow girls to wear pants. So
Yeah, I should ask some of my friends, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm not much help today.
no, that's okay. So how did women in your community dress then? Like, did you see how other women dress, like your mom, for example?
Yeah, my mom always had a dress on, always.
No pants?
Uh, Only when she went to pick berries. We had a cabin up at a lake, and when she would go up into the woods to pick blackberries, she wore pants. I remember that. She very seldom wore pants.
Mhm.
Later on, when pantsuits in the 70s came around, she did, but not when I was young.
Mhm. So did you have any dreams or aspiration for what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Not really. We in ninth grade we had a career night and I was like in a panic because I thought was I 14, 13 or 14? I don't know what I wanted to be. I thought I might want to go into physical therapy possibly or be a PE teacher. So I think I just randomly picked something then, but I started college as a PE major and lasted one semester and went into elementary education. And if you want to know why, it's because where I went to college was excellent in that field as far as preparing people to teach elementary. And the floor that I lived on in the dorm was probably 85% elementary education majors.
So you would say that your peers influenced you?
Absolutely.
Mhm. And what did your friends say they wanted to do? Do you remember?
Um, you know, I when I look back at my senior yearbook, we have a good friend of mine went to nursing school and became a pediatric nurse, but some of them went into like med tech or let me think. I don't remember talking a lot about what was next. We were more focused on the high
Just
school
going
year.
through the school.
Yeah, yeah.
That's okay. So there's this saying that says, if you can't see it, you can't be it. So did you have any role model in your life and like in your early childhood?
So are you saying, for example, like because I didn't have any relatives or friends who were doctors or lawyers or something like that, that never entered my head. That's exactly what happened. I didn't have any role models like that. Of course, I had a lot that were teachers,
Mhm.
and one in particular in high school. Yeah.
Mhm. So how did those teachers influence you? Like, do you think if you had role model, would you choose another path?
Possibly, possibly. My mom did always say that she felt the greatest profession in the world would to be a nurse was to be a nurse.
Mm.
But me personally, I just did not feel I was cut out for that. I think that truly takes a special person that
That's
can
true.
handle a lot of things that I don't handle very well.
I mean, teaching is also a very demanding career.
Yeah, I just loved all of it. I really did. It
I'm
was
glad to hear that.
it was perfect for me.
I'm glad to hear that. So,
Well, there were those times. In fact, I shouldn't even say this, but now that my kids have children of their own and I'm a grandmother, and they say, "Oh, we might name the baby so and so Tommy." I'll just pick a name, and I'm like, "Oh no, it can't be Tommy. I had a Tommy." You know what I mean? There were those kids, but and to this day, like I'll be at the grocery store and a boy, a man came up to me, "Mrs. Boyce, how are you?" And I tell him right off, I say, I know you. I know you were in my class, but I can't get your name. So then they'll tell me who it is. But they seem happy, you know, and it's a joy to see them out in the world and successful. And yeah,
yeah, I bet.
I veered off the path here a
No,
little.
no, no, that was great. I love to
Yeah,
hear those stories.
yeah. And this kid goes, "It's me, Rodney. Don't you remember me?" And I'm like, "Oh, of course I do." Yeah,
So that must be very nice seeing all those students and
yeah.
little boys and girls growing up
And
to be this.
I have a student, he's 50. Well, let's see. My first job, I was 22 and he was 10, so I'm 12 years older. So he would be late 50s, close to 60. And wonderful little kid. And he went to the Air Force Academy and he's now a pilot. And I've reconnected with him. And that is a real joy to see the success that he's had. And he came from a very small town with a very small school and class. But yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Mhm.
Shifting to your high school experience, I know that you graduated from high school in 1968. Am I right?
Correct.
So could you please describe your high school for us?
Um, it was 4 blocks from my house, so I walked. Um, Snow, cold, whatever, we walked. And it closed actually. I graduated in 68 and they closed in 1970. And because Rockford had built a co-ed Catholic high school. So there used to be an all girls and an all boys. The boys' school closed first, like in the early 60s, and then my school closed in 1970. There were only 88 girls in my graduating class. So probably a little over 100 started as freshmen, but that type of setting wasn't for everybody. So, and at the time it was expensive. When I first started, it was my freshman year was very regimented. We had to walk down the right side of the hallway, go around the hall guards, up the other side. Even if our class was straight across the hall from the room we were in, we had to go down, cross around the hall guard and come up the other side. No talking, or we would get a ticket. And if you
Wow.
got so many tickets for hall behavior, then you had a detention or something like that. Well, that whole system was abandoned after I was a freshman and they loosened it up a little bit. So, lots of extracurricular activities were offered. Because I lived so close, the nuns would call me once I turned 16 and had a driver's license. They would call me to come down to the convent, which was, like I said, 4 blocks away, but to drive down and take their cook home. They had a cook that came and made them dinner at the convent. Then if one of the nuns had the car and it was time to take the cook home, then they would call me and I would do that. My mother would be like, "You will do that. You will go and then you will take her home." Or one of the nuns was taking a class at our university here in town. And if she didn't have access to the car, I would drive her and just sit through her 2.5 hour class and read or do some homework or whatever and bring her back home. But I didn't mind doing that. She was actually the one who was my mentor or my inspiration. She was just a very good person.
What was her name?
Her name was Sister Rosalia Marie.
And how did she influence you?
She was she taught religion and but she just made it interesting. She had a sense of humor and she was just very positive. I mean, you just would look forward to being around her, you know. And I thought, you know, they're not, teachers are not all this superior, um, strict um, person that we make them out to be, especially nuns, you know.
Mhm. So I know that your school was co-ed, so it was non-co-ed. So why did you choose to go to a non-co-ed school?
Oh, that was because my older sister had gone there and it was close by and all
Mhm.
my friends went there. There was no decision to be made. I,
Mhm.
those were the three reasons. It's close. The co-ed school was open at the time, but it was 10 or 12 miles away. We had one car. We had to get our own transportation. So
And you said that you had a dress code to follow. How did that make you feel? Did you like it?
I'm sorry, I had a what to follow?
You did a dress code, right?
Oh, the dress code. Yes, I loved it. Yes. It,
Why?
oh, no competition. Nobody, you know what our competition was? Our socks. You know,
Oh,
that was when fishnet stockings, you know, and oh, it, you know, you could make a big statement. Even now, our co-ed Catholic school make the kids make their statement with their socks, Argyle socks, or you know, there was no other way to stand out or be different or other than that. So, but I liked it because it was a no-brainer. You knew you didn't have to worry about what you were going to wear the next day.
mhm. So what was your favorite subject in high school?
Um, Probably, well, I really liked Latin a lot because here we go again. That same teacher also taught Latin. So I
Mhm.
had her again, or English, maybe. I loved the literature part and even the grammar and all that. I would not say that it was science. Our science department at the school was not very good. And I wouldn't say math, but I would say probably English.
Mhm. And did you get to choose your classes in high school?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
And was there any classes that you, as girls, were encouraged to take?
Well, now that I think about it, you know, we did have home ec. I don't know what they call it now. Do they call it that now?
Yeah.
But I don't know how to say this. If you were college bound, you didn't take home ec,
Mhm.
you know,
Why?
because there were other things you needed. You needed to keep advancing your math skills to algebra 2, and all these other classes in the sciences and um that I don't it would have not I wish I would have taken it or sewing or something, you know, like that. I guess it was understood that if you're going to go to college, I'm not going to say don't waste your time on those classes, but that's basically what was. None of my friends took those classes.
Mhm.
I sound really nasty right now.
No, no, that's okay. I love to hear your thought and perspective.
Yeah.
So I know that it was a Catholic school, but did you have any sex education class?
You know, we had talked about that. Um, not really. And you wouldn't you think that they would have really driven the point home that you have to understand this process, but in biology, sophomore year, there was a unit on reproduction. And of course, we were getting really excited about that, but it was pretty much not, it was kind of glossed over, you know what I mean? And the one we had the movie in elementary school, and basically when it was done, we knew that we would have to start shaving our legs pretty soon.
Mhm.
That was the extent of it. Was nothing what I would call educational.
Mhm. So it was not helpful.
No.
Got
The,
that.
the chapter in biology was, because if she didn't talk about it, at least we could read about it.
Mhm. Did she talk about it or not?
She did, yeah, but it was a nun.
Okay.
So
Okay. I got what you're saying. So
we girls talked about it a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
same in my high school.
Slumber parties.
Yeah. You said that you did a lot of extracurriculars. What kind of activities did you like the most?
I liked the music part of it. I was in choir, a choral for 4 years, and every year we had an operetta. You can, it's exactly what the name implies, a little short musical. And I was in all of those. I loved that. I was nothing major, just like in the chorus. Um, so the music part of it, and then I belonged to Tri-M, which was Modern Music Masters, which was a like an extracurricular for those who were interested in music. And I had taken piano lessons as a child, so which that all of that was very helpful when I became a teacher because I could on a keyboard plunk out some songs and we could sing, and we always sang a lot in my classrooms. Always. We sang every day. And then I learned to play the guitar, so I use that when I taught too. But so what was your question? What extracurriculars did I enjoy?
Yeah.
The musical ones, I our athletic club was GAA, Girls Athletic Association. That was the extent of um anything on a team sport after school, but we would have intramural basketball games. um, or just like open gyms after school. I enjoyed those. I was not on the yearbook, which you'd think if I liked the writing part and the grammar and all that, I would have done that. I never did that, never did yearbook. And I didn't do anything real artsy. Like we had a wonderful art teacher and a nice art department, and I was not part of that. And then we had the religious organization called the Sodality, which was primarily about doing um, good deeds or showing kindness to those in need, like pantries or students who were struggling to reach out to them. It was a benevolent organization. So I had something pretty much every night after school.
Yeah, you like it seems like you like music a lot.
I liked it a lot. I still do. Not that I don't listen to it a lot, but I sing a lot just
Mhm.
to my grandchildren and myself, I guess.
Wow. I'm sure they love it.
Yeah, they seem to. We have a good time, so.
So, what did your friends do during their free time?
Hmm.
And what did you do? Like, I know that you were influenced by them, so I'm wondering, like, what did
Are
you?
you talking high school?
Yes.
Um, we, whoever we rode around a lot in the cars. After, like on the weekends, we would just whoever could get a car, we'd put three, four, five of us in the car and drive around, go to the drive-in, get something to eat or a shake. Saturday, we always went downtown. We had to take the bus down, and if we had the money, we would buy a 45. Do you know what a 45 is?
No.
It's a record, and it's got the big hole in the middle, an LP, a vinyl.
Okay.
So, and I believe they were 69 cents or 59 cents for a 45. And we would hang out downtown, take the bus home. That's what we did on Saturdays, to go downtown on the bus. And we'd shop for clothes, but we never really bought a lot of clothes. We just looked at them mostly because we didn't need them for school, so.
Mm.
We never did anything hanging out at night, just homework, maybe watch a little TV.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And do you recall reading any magazines or books during
Yeah,
your high school years?
I read a lot. I went to the library a lot and read. I still read a lot. And um, my friend always read like, I don't know if it was called 17 or whatever the magazine was called, but like a teen magazine she had. I didn't have access to them, but I would read hers.
And did you like them?
Yeah, they were interesting. Yeah, see what's going on. I remember I remember as a child at the doctor's office reading the highlights.
Okay.
I think that's still a magazine.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
I have to check.
but I didn't have a subscription to anything like that.
And which one was your favorite? Like, did you have a favorite book or magazine that you wouldn't miss?
Not a favorite magazine. Well, I did used to read the Reader's Digest because my dad, he read that Reader's Digest from cover to cover, and he'd say, now you have to read this article or that article. I did read that. That wasn't my favorite magazine, though, I'll tell you that. I mean, it was a little dry. Um, I had favorite books as a young child. I loved The Boxcar Children and Island of the Blue Dolphins. Those were my two favorite. And as an adult, I went back and read those again from a different perspective. And as an adult, I have a lot of favorite books and favorite authors. But
Can you tell me name of a few of them?
um, I read what's her last name? She wrote Evergreen. Taylor Caldwell, I believe, is the one. And I read see that, of course, I would draw a blank. In fact, the one I have right now, I don't, that one's okay. Um, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank.
No, that's okay.
She wrote The Great Alone and um Kristen Hanna. I
Okay.
like her books. I can hardly handle Danielle Steele. I can't hardly get, I've read some of those, but um I do have a list, but it's not with me right now because I'm at my daughter's house. But I always get my list out, and then we change books a lot. And have been in a book club, but I'm not right now. Ever since COVID hit, we don't meet anymore.
Mhm. So, did you had a job during your high school? What was it?
My first job was, well, I babysat at quite a young age. I was 11 when I started babysitting for 50 cents an hour. I babysat the four boys across the street, four boys for 50 cents an hour at probably age 12. That was my first job. Then I worked in a luncheonette at a drugstore behind the counter, cooked the French fries, served the French fries, take the money. I'd be the only one there. Then I worked at a coffee shop as a waitress. And in college, I did I worked in a restaurant as a waitress, and I also worked at registration back when you would be in a huge open arena and the students would go from table to table trying to sign up for classes because the computers were not up and running yet. And so we would handwrite their name in. And once there were 32 names or whatever, I'm sorry, the class is closed. I did registration for a couple semesters. And I worked summers at a factory as a receptionist for the purchasing agent. I think those were all my jobs in high school and college. And then I got a teaching job.
Wow, that's impressive.
Well, you go wherever they'll hire you. I made as a receptionist in the factory, I made $2 an hour. So, I mean, that was a really big paycheck to get. I probably cleared $75 a week. That was a lot. I bought my books with that. I had a scholarship for tuition, and and that was all my spending money for the year from what I made in the summer. My parents paid for the room and board.
Mhm.
So
So earlier you said that when you were in elementary school, you wanted to be a teacher. Did that change in high school, or you still had the same dream?
I wouldn't say I had a dream to be a teacher when I was real young, but once I thought about it and chose that, it didn't change. Mm-mm.
So shifting into your college experience, I know that you started college in 1968 to 1971, 72.
Correct.
So can you describe your college for me?
Well, I went from this little high school of about 300 to NIU, Northern Illinois University, which was 28,000. Um, Culture change right there, and co-ed and lecture classes of 500.
Wow.
Had several of those for the gen ed requirements. I did land in an all-girls dorm, which probably was a good thing to ease me into the big university setting. I was never part of the Greek community for anything to do with that. Yeah, it was just a big university that was very strong with their education department.
Mhm.
But like any big city you live in or any big school you're in, it's like you find your little suburb and you find your little group. Like in my dorm, your floor, and then it shrinks down to your room and the two or three rooms on each side of you, and that's who you go eat dinner with.
Mhm.
Um, and they become, I'm 74 and I still see one of my college roommates. It was my freshman year and she was a junior once a month because we play bunco together,
Wow.
which
That's
is a
a
dice game.
long.
You probably don't know what that is either.
Oh, please explain that.
Bunco?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a mindless. You read the rules online. You just roll three dice. Is it three? Yeah, three dice, and you keep score. It's and the thing that I don't like about it is you can't talk during it because you're counting spots on the dice. But anyway,
Wow, that's a long-term relationship.
yeah. Well, we drifted. We were apart for several years, and then we somehow landed back together. She knew somebody that I knew that was in the Bunko Club, and it's like, oh, I haven't seen you in a while. So, but I'll tell you that one, two, three, four of the people in that Bunko group. Let's see. One I've known since kindergarten. Three I've known all through grade school and high school. So we go back a long way.
Yeah. And why did you choose this specific college?
Um, it was only an hour from my house. Every school you ask me about, I say, well, it was close to home. It was an hour away. DeKalb, Illinois is an hour from Rockford. And it was a state university, and I had a state scholarship to go there. So actually, my parents did not pay my tuition. They paid my room and board. My tuition was paid by the state because of the scholarship I had. And once I got that, it was like, well, which state school should I go to? Oh, I'll go to Northern because it's close.
Mhm. And what kind of goals did you have in college?
My biggest goal was to keep getting good grades. That and and finish with a job, a career, and to be able to get, which for that major at the time, there was an overabundance of applicants for teaching jobs. But in college, it was to get good grades and do well.
So I know that you were a first generation college. How did you manage those experience and like not knowing what the college work, maybe an application works?
I still I wouldn't call them nightmares, but I still have dreams about trying to find my way around a university. It's not Northern, but I dream this dream very often. And I could draw you a picture of what it looks like. And the dream was nothing like the buildings at Northern, but I was afraid I would never find my classes before I went. And we had 10 minutes to, the class ended at 8:50. The next one starts at 9. You have 10 minutes to get, and I was, all of that tremendously made me worry. But once I realized everybody's in the same boat and it's manageable, then it worked out.
Did other girls in your community also continue their education after high school?
My friends,
Yeah, like other girls in your community.
other girls, did you say?
Yeah, like I know that all your friends went to college except one, but like what about other girls that you went to high school with?
No, not everybody did. No, no, no. I'd say maybe quite a large number. I would say 2/3 to 3/4 did go to college.
Mhm.
It was the school promoted it. They would talk about it and make it try to make it a goal for those of us that they thought would do well, I guess. I don't know.
And what was the campus life like for women at your college?
Well, there was a large Greek population, so which I was not part of. Um, I don't know, I just remember everybody holding a whole bunch of books and scurrying from class to class and taking notes and eating in the cafeteria. You fall into a regimented daily schedule, and it was a community that many, many kids went home on the weekends because it's not far from Chicago. A lot of the kids were from suburbs. What do they call it? A suitcase college.
Mhm.
I really didn't do that too much.
Mhm. So shifting to your career, I know that you started almost immediately working when you graduated out of college in 1972, right?
Mhm.
So could you please tell me what was your first job?
My first job as a teacher.
Yeah, like which
Yeah,
is was
it
it?
was it was a small rural school. I had third and fourth grade and with a total of 13 children. It was like ideal. 3 were in third and 10 were in fourth. It was a combined class. There were only 4 teachers, well, and then a halftime kindergarten teacher, and it was just delightful.
Mhm. And how was the interview process?
There were only 3 people on the school board, and they interviewed me. And they were very nice. I ended up becoming very, very good friends with one of the board members. I was married at the time, I'm not now. And we became good friends. They were like in their late 20s, we were in our early 20s, and I'm still friends with them. It was a painless interview, really.
Mhm. So did you stay in your first job or did you change career after that?
Well, I changed. My husband moved with jobs. I was there 3 years. Then I was in another district for 3 years, second grade, and then I was off for 10 years when my children were pretty young, and then I went back to first grade in another district. So I taught in 3 different districts.
Mhm. And were your coworkers mostly men or women?
Co-workers,
Yeah.
mostly women. There
Mhm.
were very few men. The first little school that I taught at, I said there were 4 full-time teachers, but the 4th teacher was the 7th and 8th grade teacher, and that was a man, but he was also the head teacher. They didn't call him a principal. So he was the administrator.
Mhm.
And then my second job, the principal was a man. Um, and there were not a lot of men in the elementary. I think only two in the elementary school. And then when I taught my last 20 years in the bigger district, there were more men at the elementary, but what I noticed is that there were more women in the role of principal
Mhm.
at the elementary.
Yeah, and were you equally compensated in comparison to your male colleagues?
Yeah, but there, because of the salary schedule, it's each district has their schedule and you can see where you plug in how many years experience and how much graduate credit you have and what degrees you have. Excuse me, I gotta grab my water.
Sure.
But gender didn't enter into that.
So, did you notice any difference in how male and female teachers were perceived and treated by parents and school
Oh
and
yeah,
students?
I think especially parents of boys are just tickled when they know that they have a male teacher. My last school, our male teachers were fourth grade and sixth grade, and the parents really appreciated that.
Mhm. So, were there any leadership roles for women at teaching at that time?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Like our principal, the three principals I had in my 20 years there were women, and lots of even our superintendent was a woman. Um, but that was like in the 90s. We're talking now.
Mhm.
Um,
So, did you notice any difference in how boys and girls were treated and encouraged in the classroom?
in the classroom,
Yeah.
hmm, well, I guess it's the old generalization that I think the girls are treated with, a softer demeanor, maybe. The boys are rough and tough, and they come in from PE or recess and they're all red faced and sweaty and s- and the girls are I think I think so in regards that I don't even know how to describe it, but I would say, yeah, I think somewhat they are treated differently.
Mhm. And were they encouraged the same, like for pursuing higher education, like the boys and the girls?
I taught such early, I was always primary, first, second, third, that we didn't talk a lot about higher education, because they're so little, so young.
Mhm. So, were there any policies or practices in the schools that you've worked that you seemed were unfair?
Regarding boys and girls.
No, regarding like you just thought that this policy is unfair, maybe.
When I was a teacher,
Yeah.
well, I'll keep thinking about that. Nothing comes to my mind right now.
Okay.
Um, regarding the students.
Regarding maybe even teachers, like any policy that you thought just doesn't make sense to you.
Hmm. I don't know that I can think of anything because if there was something I wasn't real fond of or didn't think was meaningful to me, they had their reasons for doing it a certain way.
Mm.
And so we didn't really question it.
So, how did major events at your time, like civil rights movements or women's movements, influence you and your career?
Okay, can I go back to grade school?
Yeah.
So I was in eighth grade. I was in English class. Of course, you hear these stories all the time. And the principal was a woman, a nun, and she came in and said that John Kennedy had been shot November 22nd, 63. And, you know, a horrible, horrible thing. What I couldn't understand about it was when I got home that day, I walked home because the school was again close to my house. There sounds like I'm surrounded by schools. And my mother was in tears,
Mm,
just sobbing. And I could not understand that because she didn't know him. You know what I mean? He wasn't our uncle or our brother. Could not even grasp the seriousness of that.
mhm.
The civil rights movement, my roommate in college, once we got in an apartment, had a lamp, a light with three faces on it with John Kennedy, Martin Luther King, and Bobby Kennedy. And we would turn that lamp on and it had a saying above it. I can't remember, but it was, let us not forget, or, the something about that. So that was a constant reminder. I don't remember any issues with discrimination regarding race in my high school. We just tried to be nice to everybody.
So, is there any particular memory or achievement or a student that still stands out to you till this day?
Of one of my students
Any achievement or memory or any student, one thing that still stands out to you from your career?
from my career, whose achievement, mine or theirs?
Yours, it could be yours. Yeah.
Um, one of the things that I did, well, as far as the students, many of those kids went on to, do really good things. And like that young man I told you about that went to the Air Force Academy, and he's a pilot, and um, just a good person. But I remember taking on a challenge for 2 years in the 90s. We had a program called Summer Bridges, which was to try to bring the students who were struggling up to grade level in reading and math. So they offered, it's basically summer school, but it was federally funded, might have been state funded. And my principals called me in to direct Summer Bridges, and I'm like, no, I don't do that. I don't. My kids were old enough then that they could stay alone, so I could do it. But so it was mornings, like 8 to 12 for maybe 4 weeks in the summer. But I remember putting that together. You had to hire the teachers and decide which students would be accepted into the program. And then, of
Mhm.
course, I got called into jury duty during that. And
Wow.
and I remember sitting there and they're interviewing, and they said, "Is there any reason you can't be on this jury?" And I said, I got this other job and all these teachers, and I have to compile all the data of the growth of these students this summer. So I was not picked for the jury.
Mhm. And how did that make you feel? Like,
Doing that job, I that was something I wouldn't have chosen to do, but she said, you can do this. She was having trouble finding somebody, so she complimented me so much I couldn't say no, so I did it. And there's probably other things too, but I can't, they're not coming to me right now. This is
mhm.
what happened when you interview old people. They can't remember anything.
No, I mean, you've been amazing. Thank you. And what lessons did you learn from your teaching career?
I'm sorry, what?
What lessons did you learn from your teaching career?
That the main one is that every child is different. Every child is different. And that the most important thing is to recognize those individual differences and adjust your expectations to make them realistic for that particular child. I think that's probably the best lesson that I learned. We're in that Catholic school when we all had our uniforms on and we all sat in the same desk with our hands folded. We all kind of were grouped as the same, and that's not the case.
So, were there any moments that you considered leaving your job?
Oh, yeah.
Tell me about it.
Oh, boy. It's the parents.
Mhm. I said teaching is a demanding job.
Oh, my gosh. The students that you do the most for, and I became a literacy teacher at the end of my career, and I taught a program called Reading Recovery, which was a one-on-one intervention. It's an excellent program. It's not in the curriculum anymore because it's too expensive, because it's a one teacher, one student.
Mhm.
But that's why it's effective, but it is expensive. And one of the students I had in that program, the parents were just awful. The program requires a lot of home support, and it didn't go well at home, and the parents they just weren't nice people. And you think, why am I doing this? I remember it used to just bother me and bother me. And I like riding my bike. So I'd be at the end of the day and I'd get on my bike, and I just kept thinking about the student and the parents and how awful they were. And this job doesn't pay me enough to put up with all this. But the kid got out of my class and went on to the next class, and the parents were nasty to the next teacher too. So, it goes like that. Um, but I never, that was the only thing that would make me give it up, would be the nasty
Mhm. And
people.
what was the most surprising or unexpected part of your job?
Um, I don't know. That's a hard question. Um, one of the best parts is the camaraderie that and the friends that I knew, people that I met in the job, and I learned to glean from them. And teachers don't care if they're doing this wonderful acorn project or whatever, and you go in and you'll be like, here, you do it with your kids. Here's the materials, share. If you have good ideas, share them. Don't keep them to yourself. And in elementary, boy, there's a lot of that.
Mhm.
Um, it was a good career.
Yeah. So, what was the best part of your job? Like, what was the most rewarding part that you always look forward to?
The end of the year, when they would come in and the parents had written a little note. I still have all of them
Wow.
on shelves. And there they'd come in with a bunch of flowers, or I have books, that say, not that I was, but it would be to the greatest teacher ever. And I have one with this little angel and the child's picture. She must be like 40 by now. Um, and it says something about to my first grade teacher, whatever. And the best part of my whole career was teaching children to read. That was the big thing in first grade and reading recovery. And, kids who had basically no preschool or book experiences from the home, and then they graduate reading recovery, and they just read, they just have learned how to read. That's probably the most rewarding.
Mhm. And moving forward to your personal aspect of your life, I know that you have three children.
Yeah,
So, did you have to miss work because of pregnancy?
because of
Because of pregnancy.
um no, not no, my first child was born in August, and well, yes, I did. Yes. What am I thinking? And I went back in January, so I missed those 4 months.
Mhm.
And then I had 10 years off when the second and third one came. But I was able, because of our state pension system, I was able to get all 3 pregnancies added on to my years of experience towards my pension, which was, I mean, that's phenomenal, you know.
But other than that, were you offered maternity leave?
Yeah, yes. Hmm.
So how did you manage motherhood duties with such a demanding job?
Well, when I just had the one child, I had an excellent babysitter. I took my firstborn to the sitter. It was in her home. Um, I knew her. She had 2 or 3 other little ones. I didn't worry about him. Um, he was well cared for. If anything, if she needed me, she knew she could call the school and, get a hold of me. But then when the second and third one came, like I said, I was home for 10 years. I did not work for 10 years because I didn't think I could do 3 of them and take one to preschool and a new baby. And so I had time off.
And how was that for you, like being 10 years away from your career?
Great, wonderful. Yeah. Walk a lot, take those kids here and there and experiences and go to the parks. And I loved being home for 10 years. And when I went back, I started subbing. I eased into it. I think my youngest, my daughter that lives here, she was in, I think, second grade. I think they were second, fifth, and seventh grade. And so I started subbing, and then the room that I was subbing in, somebody else across the hall had to leave, so we shuffled around, and the principal said, I know you want to be a sub, but could you take this class all year? I don't know if I ever would have gone back, actually. And I said, well, I'll do it for a year. Well, that was in 1990, and I retired in '09. So that was 19 years later. So
Wow. What did you like the most about becoming a mother?
I just loved every part of it. I liked just everything. I see it again with my daughter, the activities you do with these little ones, reading the books and playing the games and teaching the letters and taking the walks. And, like Friday, I'm in the Chicago area, so I think we're going to go to the zoo and see the lights. What's not to like? I just enjoyed I enjoyed it, and I'm getting to do it again through the grandkids.
Mm. And what was the hardest part of being a mother?
When they were sick,
Mhm.
my second son had pneumonia several times when he was a baby, and then you're in the hospital with them. They have an IV, and when they're sick or injured, probably.
Yeah, that's difficult. So
Yeah.
when we started this interview, I know that you are a retired teacher and a grandmother. How would you describe yourself other than these roles?
Other than what?
Other than these roles, like outside
Well,
of this
those
role.
roles,
Yeah.
a teacher and grandmother. How would I describe myself? I'm a walker, a
Mhm.
biker, a reader. Um, I think I have a good sense of humor. I like to laugh. I like to see musicals and plays. Um, I like to travel.
Mhm.
So that's what I do.
Mhm.
And I'm so fortunate to be I'm not in perfect health, but pretty good health that I can do these things. Yeah.
I'm glad to hear that. So, looking back on all your experiences and achievement, what makes you the most proud of your younger self?
My younger
Self,
self,
yeah.
like how much younger?
I mean, like looking back on all your achievement, which one of them makes you the most proud?
Raising 3 successful, contributing members of society who are good people and happy people.
Mhm. Yeah, that's
That's
a
a pretty
great
good
job.
accomplishment. Not that I did it, but I might have had a little bit of a role in it, being their mom, but I'm pretty grateful for that.
I'm sure it wasn't easy.
There were a few times.
So looking back, what do you wish had been different for women during your early career?
I guess I wish that, remember I mentioned that career night when I was in ninth grade?
Yeah.
That was it, pretty much. That, in other words, what can you be? What can you do? There was one night and it was at a public school. And after that, then, well, actually, when we went to that night, we could only go to like three different, what do I want to call it? Through sessions. So you had to pick. I tried to nurse, teacher, physical therapist, whatever, because they were like 20 minutes each. I mean, we were never versed in the possibilities. Like one of my daughter-in-laws now is an attorney. That never was in my vocabulary. Or many, many careers I could have chosen. So
Mm. So I know that you have retired. I'm wondering what goals do you have from future? I know that you travel a lot. So
my biggest one is just to maintain my health and to
mm,
stay active because I don't want to, like my daughter where I am now, her little girl turns 3 in June and they're going to Disney and they
oh,
invited
wow.
grandma to go. Well, I gotta walk a lot. I'll be 75 then. So I want to stay healthy and active.
Mhm. That's a great goal.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to your younger self?
Um, maybe it seems a little trite, but the house does not have to be cleaned every week.
Mhm.
Settle down and don't stress out about things that are not really that important. And enjoy the moments that are happy moments without thinking ahead to what you have to do tomorrow or tonight or whatever. Just to live in the moment and enjoy it and um, let the little things go, pretty much.
Wow, that
Yeah,
was very impactful.
yeah, I have some anxiety about some things that are, it's mind over body or mind over, yeah, body, really. So anyway, I wish you, are we done?
Yeah, just the conclusion is that as we close this interview, I want to thank you for sharing your story with me and our audience. I'm sure that it's going to be a great addition to our interviews,
Oh,
and it was truly a privilege knowing you and getting to know your story.
you are very welcome, and I appreciate getting to know you, and you are just delightful, and I wish you the best of luck in your educational career and everything that follows.